Stay With Me by Jodie Headland. Scene 1. She was exceptional at her job and had honed her body to handle the rigors of whatever she might encounter. But never in her wildest imagination had she believed she'd use her conditioning as she raced for her life in the Middle Ages. "I'm terrible at horse riding," she gulped in several breaths. "I should offer to help you improve your equestrian skills." Bent at the waist, he breathed heavily too. "But then I shall perhaps lose the one thing I do better than you." Delight shimmied through her at his roundabout compliment. He was stronger and faster. There was no arguing the fact. But she was satisfied with how she'd been able to match his effort, never lagging behind. "I suppose you're not used to a woman who's able to keep up with you." Still bent and resting his hands on his thighs, he cast her a sideways glance. "I assure you, I have never met a woman like you." Everything about him was magnetic, even the briefest of looks, and her body seemed unable to resist the draw, flushing with a warmth that had nothing to do with the physical exertion. With Coles only a dozen paces away down the ravine, he motioned for her to follow him again and started through the brush up an incline. As they reached the pinnacle of the hill, Nicholas crouched behind a boulder and pulled her down next to him. A finger to his lips urged her to silence, and she tried to quiet her breathing and heartbeat. Down the hill, the shouts were impatient. "They are riding due south," he whispered, "but we'll soon be on our trail once more." "How long?" "Within the quarter of an hour." "All right, then let's keep going." "You are rested enough." She pinned him down with a sharp look. "If you are." His lips quirked up with the hint of a grin. What did he find so humorous? Her competitive spirit? He reached for her hand as he had done several times already. As before, she was tempted to resist to show that she was strong and capable and didn't need a man's help. But, as his fingers closed around hers and their palms pressed together, something about the connection drew her. Maybe it was how physically attractive he was. Or maybe it was because she was in the past and this was also temporary. So fleeting, which meant she didn't have to concern herself with repercussions. Besides, he probably didn't mean anything by the contact other than to ensure she didn't get lost. He kept low, pushing aside thorny branches and holding them back for her. "We should be able to reach a hiding place before they find a way around the ravine." "And how do you know of the hiding place?" "I wandered the Weald as a boy, and I am more familiar with it than most." She suspected that wasn't the entire reason for his familiarity with the area, and with every passing moment, she wanted to know more about the strong and fascinating man that she had helped save. Scene 2. "And what have we here?" came a voice with a thicker accent, like someone from West Midlands with a Brummie dialect. "You clarting about in there, Nicholas?" Rounded eyes amidst a fleshy face peered at them. A middle-aged man with a mostly bald head. Kind face, but one that was rapidly turning red. "No, we're not doing anything, Father Fritz." Nicholas attempted to extradite himself, but in the process he landed on top of her, his body pressing down, making them appear guilty of indulging in intimacies. "Then why, my dear son, are you both stripped down to nothing?" More curious faces filled the mouth of the cave, taking in their sleeping arrangement, which she could admit looked compromising. "I can explain," Nicholas said. "No explanation needed, sire," one of the men guffawed. "We all know well enough how things work." His bawdy comment brought more laughter. "Stand back!" A command boomed from outside the cave. The men staring inside disappeared, and another man poked his head inside, his face thin and severe. He swept his gaze over them, then shook his head curtly. "God's bones, Nicholas, what are you doing?" "It be plenty clear. Nicholas is fornicating." Father Fritz spoke just outside the cave. Nicholas released a long sigh. "I am not fornicating." Sybil could only stare up at him. He was still perched in a compromising position above her. A part of her wanted to laugh at the situation. Another part of her burned with embarrassment that these men assumed she and Nicholas had engaged in sex. The man with the severe expression pinned a hard look on Nicholas. "Is this woman your wife?" "No." "Then she will be soon." Nicholas glanced down at her, his eyes held in an apology. She bit back a smile, the unraveling of their predicament growing more ludicrous by the second.